The Latin American International Championships is this weekend, and it is the first Paradox Rift legal event. I actually fly out tomorrow, and I still don't really know what is going to be played, but we're going to take a look at exactly how good I think each of these decks are. All right, so I went ahead and sort of put into Rogue all of the decks that either have duplicates in the list or decks that I'm just not even going to talk about. All right, so first off, we have Goodra. I think this could be decent, but I haven't really tested much, so we're putting it here. So Goldango, I actually have tried a lot. Like, I've really tried to make this guy work, I promise. But it's just kind of outclassed by other Evo decks such as Gardevoir and Charizard, just decks that have either options or just like big HP attackers such as Charizard that can naturally do a lot of damage. Like Goldango, you really have to work for this guy to get the damage, and then even the Scizor is like they can totally play around that. So I don't think it's very good for that reason. I just think it gets outclassed. Like, I don't think it's a bad card, really. I just think it gets outclassed. So next we have Lost Box Zard. I also don't think that this is very good. It just gets outclassed by either Lost Box or either Zard, right? Like it's just kind of trying to be both, and I feel like at that point you might as well just run Tina. It's a stage 1. It's easier to get out. Speaking of Tina. So I actually don't love Tina. Well, I've never really liked Tina. It's just kind of inconsistent. I think in the Paradox Rift meta especially, we're going to see a lot faster games. Like, we're going to see a lot more acceleration at the beginning of the game. You know, Roaring Moon, Iron Hands, stuff that can take prizes really fast, and that is not something that Tina likes to see. Tina wants to play a long game. Tina wants abyss seeking, and Path to the Peak is usually what allowed Tina to do this, but I think with a lot of decks, like if Roaring Moon just has the stadium bump, or again, Chien-Pao just has the stadium bump, they have one stadium bump, it's like they can set up everything, and Chien-Pao can draw cards with Bibarel. Roaring Moon can, like, they have a full board of attackers. So, like, it doesn't really do it. The path doesn't really do as much against these newer decks. And also, Countercatcher, I think, was seen as an inclusion to Tina. The problem is that, unlike Gardevoir, that has, like, single prizers that can effectively utilize Countercatcher to say, I'm sticking this one prizer in the active, and I'm going to positively trade with stuff on your bench while playing Iono. Giratina already has Sableye. Like, it doesn't really benefit a whole lot from Countercatcher. Like, obviously, it still runs it. It's just bossing an item card. But I think that Sableye allows it to effectively pick stuff off on the bench, and I don't know really how much it benefits from Countercatcher. But still a good deck. Like, I think, like, if Zard is really popular, which it very well could be, Tina could do well. So I'm definitely putting it tier 1.5 just because I think it's still a good deck, but I don't think it's nearly as strong as these other guys. Speaking of other guys, Gardevoir, this deck is broken. I don't care what anyone says. It doesn't lose to Iron Hands that badly. Like, it's still not, it's just not a great time against like Chien-Pao, but decks like Lugia and maybe Miraidon that only run like one Iron Hands and no like easy way to recur it, just kind of might get outpaced by Gardevoir, because Gardevoir can just go slam while going Iono every single turn, while counter-catching up. If you're powering up an Iron Hands, it's not safe. I'm gonna gust it up with my item card and then put your hand down to nothing while I just have all this advantage. Like, this deck is really good. Also with Screamtail, I guess you also have the cape to allow it to take like the massive knockout at the end of the game. But even without the cape, it can hit for 160 on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So not an insane number, but one-shot Squawkabilly and Baxcalibur notably. So against Chien-Pao, you can, if you hit him with like Iono or like Avery or something like that, and then you go Screamtail, like, you can really effectively limit their options and then Iono them later on in the game. So I think Gardevoir is really good. We've just always seen it do well in tournaments, and it hasn't even had Countercatcher and Screamtail. So now players have these newer cards, and I just think it's going to do really well at LAIC. Next up is Chien-Pao. This deck is broken. I'm not like biased on this one either. Like, if you've seen my other videos, like, I don't put Chien-Pao like at the top. It's usually like up there, but it's never at the top. I think it's actually like really good now. I think that the deck was good before, but you needed Switcher Colognes to pull off multi-prizes against like lower HP decks. Now you just need Iron Hands. And like, what happens if they can't immediately respond to an Iron Hands? They lose. Like, if you're playing against Guardy and then they can't pull off the Arcana Guardy return, or you're playing against Lost Box and they can't find a Dragonite, they lose instantly. Like, there's really nothing that they can do. And just for an environment where you're playing so many rounds, and I would argue Chien-Pao is relatively consistent, like, you're going to be doing this, like, a lot. Like, this Iron Hands is just crazy for the deck. And I think also we're going to see a lot of people who haven't been playing Chien-Pao maybe pick up on the deck. I think it is slowly becoming, like, the ever-looming threat of the Paradox Rift format. And also, obviously, I just love Chien-Pao. So, like, next up is Lugia. I'm guessing this is just colorless. This deck is really good. It kind of shocked me. I played against someone at the late night, actually. Hit him twice in a tournament, and I lost both times. Like, it wasn't even close. I had no idea to play against this deck. Like, with the Iron Hands, it is crazy. Like, they can Iron Hands boss Barrel. They can, that's what happened to me. They can, like, Iron Hands for 3 and then Snorlax for 1 and then Lugia for 2. Like, they have so many options with Iron Hands. It's crazy. This is definitely, like, the second best Iron Hands user, I would say, like, apart from Chien-Pao. But it's just insane with, like, Vessel. You can search out the Lightning. You can also get Charizard before your opponent's at 2 prizes, which I guess is kind of niche, but it's cool. You can just search your deck for a fire energy and then just slam, because before you couldn't because you had luminous energy, but now you actually have the fire, and it's searchable now with the ancient vessels. So I would still put it, I wouldn't put it at like S tier or anything, just because like I'm never going to do that. Like, Lugia is just high roll by nature, right? Like, you're flipping all these coins, you're kind of not expecting to set up every single game, but the games that you do set up are really good. So I still respect Lugia. I think it's like one of the top decks heading into the tournament for sure. Miraidon. I actually haven't seen this deck do incredibly well in online events, and I'm not really sure where it falls. Like, I think on paper it should be really good. I think that there are so many other better options, but I think it still holds its own. Like, we saw it win Toronto, right? Like, this is obviously a deck that should not be completely disrespected. So I'm kind of torn, probably in one of these. I think the deck is consistent enough, and it also has Path to the Peak to disrupt some decks. Like, it has like a solid win con against everything. Like, against Zard, it can like Path Judge. Against Guardy, it can Path Iono, right? Against Chien-Pao, it can just play Path. Like, it has so many ways to just like easily win games. You hit like one generator and you're just fine. And then you also obviously get Iron Hands, which it's a pretty good user of Iron Hands, right? Next up is Roaring Moon. So I suppose now that we have a tier 1.5, this one's a tricky one. So like, Roaring Moon is actually a deck I tested a ton for the event, like way more than Chien-Pao actually. Like, I wanted to not play Chien-Pao me every single major event, but like, yeah, I don't know exactly where to put this. I think it is a glass cannon. I think that it barrels on ahead and it says, okay, if I get to turn 1 and you can't positively exchange with me later on, then I win, right? But if that's not the case, then I lose. So I think I'm going to put it on the Tina tier. I think it's still good. Like, Tina's still good. Roaring Moon is still good, right? But I think the problem with it is a glass cannon. So, like, against Gardevoir, you do not win. Like, you don't beat Guardy. There is no world in which you beat Guardy. Because, like, they have, especially when they have Screamtail, they have so many options to, like, shut down your game plan. And there is no way that you beat Guardy. There's, like, no way that you beat Lost Box. Even, like, Mew is even. Like, because Fusion can just kind of out-trade you. Like, it almost seems like the only thing it really beats is, like, I don't even know, because like all these like, I would say like Lugia or Pao, I guess, going second can cheese wins, but it's like Pao can just go like Ninja, like, and it can hands, and it can get around the 2-2-2 map. Like, I just think all of these decks have really good one prize options, and Roaring Moon just doesn't. Like, Roaring Moon has more Pekko, but like, even then, Guardy's just gonna catch her up a 2-prizer or Screamtail to Squawk, and it's just, you just really have no good options against a lot of the metagame, especially when all these lists are just, I mean, like the Lugia, like, come on, they're just so refined. Lugia can throw up a Snorlax and say, I go boss on your Luminion. Like, what are you gonna, are you gonna more Pekko and kill the Snorlax? Are you gonna Brute Bonnet, kill the Snorlax? Like, you could Guster on it for all of eternity, but it's like, I don't know. Like, you have to give Radzar and Lugia too. It loses just like so many options. Lost Box is an interesting one. I actually really respect this deck. I think that it's still tier 1. I think that there's also just like multiple variations of this deck, right? There's Sablezard, there's just normal Turbo, and then there's Kyogre. So I think that all of these versions are good. I think that people have been on Sablezard just because the Zard does trade really well into Iron Hands. Like, you're forcing like a rope out of Chien-Pao because like Dragonite can easily get responded to with a Chien-Pao. You can also play this with like Roaring Moon too. I've seen builds like that come online, but I don't really think you need to do any more than 250. Like, I think 250 is a really good number. Sableye can always clean up the math. And I also don't think people are playing Jirachi. I don't think that's like a card people are playing. Maybe a couple lists will be playing it, but it's usually just not worth it for anything. I think Lost Box is going to do well because nobody thinks Lost Box is going to do well. Like, I think this deck is good because everyone thinks Iron Hands is good, and it's just going to roll Lost Box. But Lost Box gets a first cram hit, they get Iron Hands, and then they go Dragonite respond, and then the Iron Hands player says, okay, I killed the Dragonite, and then Lost Box says, okay, Roxanne, Sableye killed the thing I crammed, and now we're even, and you have 2 cards in your hand. You know what I mean? So, like, I think the players who like fly down from North America and like the really sweaty Lost Box players are still going to find a way to do well, even if they just like dodge these sketch matchups. Like, I guess, I don't even know what's really sketch. Maybe like, I guess Lugia sketch because like they have Lugia and Iron Hands and Snorlax, but like it still seems good in my mind. Mew Genesect. So I'm actually gonna mainly focus on fusion on this one. I think Path has really been outclassed because I don't think Path is like that good by itself. This deck is really good. Like, this deck, nobody has been talking about it. Everyone has been silent about Mew. This deck is probably because we're playing it, I don't know, but this deck is just ridiculous. Like, it has good matchups into everything except like Zard and like Turbo Lost Box, but like, who's playing Drapion? Like, I don't know who's gonna play Drapion in this like metagame that is just so wide. I mean, maybe you should, but like, Mew always finds a way to win events, and like I said before, Roaring Moon is not a bad matchup for Mew. I think everyone thinks that, oh, the dark type attacker that one-shots Mew, right? Bad matchup. No, it's not, because fusion, you can one-shot with the Meloetta, right? And then like, if Mew goes second, you can one-shot with the Meloetta. You are initiating the prize exchange. You are taking 2 prizes before Roaring Moon takes any. So they need to kill the Meloetta and then 2 Mew VMAXs. So the matchup is actually like pretty close to even. Mew does not care about the capsule. Mew can just boss or Echoing Horn boss. Mew can rope, like, Mew does not care. Mew will always find a way to get out of your like 290 HP monster. But I think it really only struggles with like, at this point, like Zard, which I think might be popular. I think players will be scared to play Mew because of it, but I don't know. This just seems like one of those decks like one of the top groups from America is going to play and like sweep. Like, if that happens, then like, you heard it here first, but like, man, this deck is good. I would play it if I like know how to play Mew. I was like very seriously considering it for LAIC because like, just dodge the Zard and I think you're fine. Next up is Snorlax. So this is it's been a controversial one, actually. Like, I think a lot of people have been super back and forth on this guy. So what are my opinions? I don't think it's very good. I think that the gig is up. I think that like, people already know how to play against it. It is like decent. Like, I think it's decent. There's just so many decks. And when you're playing at such a big, like, this is for LAIC. This isn't for like your cup. Like, play this to a cup. It's probably broken. But like, LAIC, like, you're playing against like the best players in the world here. I don't really think that they're gonna be like, oops, I forgot to super out in my mana feat. I guess I lose. Like, it's not gonna happen. It's just gonna have a tough time converting against, like, I guess the players have been playing a while, like, so especially for an IC. I don't know who's playing this. Like, it's probably better than this. I don't want to respect it. I don't care. Next up is Charizard. So this is, I think this deck is good. I think from what I've been told, it has a solid matchup spread. This is like the only deck that I haven't like really tested at all. I don't even own Charizards. So I'm just gonna go off of what I've seen from other people. I think it's good. I think it's really good. I think it should be respected, right? I think really the only matchup it really struggles into is Chien-Pao, and I guess I don't really know how Guardy is. I feel like with the Evo TM, I feel like Guardy's even swingable just because you're like 1 turn faster. And obviously, you just have a good Mew matchup. But, like, you can definitely beat Chien-Pao now with Zard. And I wouldn't say that before Paradox Rift just because of Counter Catcher. And because of this Evo TM, if they go Iron Hands, you can just, like, immediately punish them. And then I think it obviously just does pretty good in the Lost Box. I don't really know about the Miraidon. I guess I've heard different things about the Miraidon matchup. And then I think it's just really good in the Lugia, right? Because, like, what are they going to do into a Charizard? So it has a good matchup spread. Like, it has a good matchup spread. Sans Chien-Pao, I think it's like really well positioned. All right, I guess lastly we have whatever this is. I was told this was a real deck by like multiple people. So I guess what it hits like 220 plus Valiant is like more damage it can get. What I don't no way. Like I feel like the merit of Valiant is just like cheesing Frigibaxes and stuff against Chien-Pao, cheesing the Raltzes, and you just have an Entei out. Like Guardy can just out trade that. You're not gaining anything with the Entei. I don't think Entei helps against anything, really. What is... You're not... This isn't VSTAR meta. You're not trying to, like, kill Lugias all day. There's a reason why Palkia VSTAR is nowhere on this list, because nobody wants to play it. And then, yeah, so now we have the two, like, Urshi variants. So I think that Urshi Valiant, it's kind of like Urshi Intel, but it kind of goes faster and kind of, like, runs out of steam. I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of like a slightly worse Urshi Intel. But again, I haven't tested a ton. I'm gonna put it down here because I don't believe in Valiant. I don't think anyone's gonna flip over Valiant in my match. I'm gonna be in for Rude Awakening once I get donked at LAIC, but I'm just gonna say it's not real and hopefully it won't hurt me. Then yeah, next we have Urshi Intel. I guess this is like it's either gonna be this or Valiant. That's gonna be like the decent one. Again, I haven't really tested Urshifu that much, so I can't really say myself. It does have a lot of options against a lot of decks, even against Chien-Pao, right? You just have like a lot of options, right? Like you can like go for the backs, you can go for the barrel, etc. Against these other matchups, like I think the only thing that it really struggled with before was like the dominance of like Mew and Lugia in the Obsidian Flame /151 format. And I think now that the metagame is more like stratified, I think it might be better. But then you have, like, again, Zard with, like, the Evo TM. It just speeds it up, you know? And it gives these Charmeleons, like, 100, like, immediately. But, yeah, I like this version better because I can't imagine playing Urshi without Octillery. That sounds horrible. I don't know how you draw cards, but somehow I keep losing to it. So maybe Valiant's good, but I'm putting Urshi Intel above for now. But yeah, this is, I guess, my completed tier list. I think it's pretty accurate into, like, kind of how I see the metagame and kind of what decks I expect not to play the most of, but to be good and to, like, place the highest. So yeah, that about wraps it up for this video. I will actually be going to LAIC, so wish me luck. My flight is tomorrow, and I will have a vlog on that, hopefully. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.